Hello everyone, I'm Deb and this is DB Designs and Sewing Australia. And welcome back to part 2 of the Quebec skirt. Yes, someone said you're saying this incorrectly. It's Quebec as in the province in Canada. So apologies for that, especially to all Canadian people. So the Quebec skirt by Itch to Stitch. And this is part 2. Part 1 was basically cutting out, placing your pattern pieces and putting the markings on. So the next stage is to apply the stay tape. And remembering stay tape is really just narrow interfacing. So I have got mine here, and yes, it's definitely from Tizzuti because it's on a Tizzuti card. And I have already applied some, but I will show you the hardest one to apply. Now this is applying it to the back pocket. I've got 2 of those. This is applying it to the coin pocket, and this is applying it to one of the fronts. And as you can see, that's on a curve. So I'll show you how we do the curve one. Now, the first thing you want to do is you need to apply the stay tape 1.25 centimeters or half an inch from the edge so that I get it in, so that this part is exposed. Your half an inch or your 1.25 centimeters is exposed and your stay tape is on after that, so that I can get a really good line, especially since it's curved. I have drawn a line in chalk. Now that's in the permanent chalk because it's not going to be able to be seen, and I'll show you how I do this. So because it's a curve, it's going to be a little bit different. Now I have my iron set to the very highest setting that your iron will go. And with strips of interfacing or stay tape, it can just shrivel it right up. So once I have it in place for the first part, I am just tapping it on with the nose point of my iron. I am not pressing it down really, really hard yet. So now I'm just going to snip this stay tape, and now I'm going to apply the next piece. Trying to maintain the curve. And I can see that this part needs to be snipped off so the overlap is just not there. So this is quite a slow process. I don't want to throw those little tiny pieces all over my sewing room, or they'll end up stuck to my iron for sure. So as you can see, just working our way around the curve and snipping every little bit that's going to become an issue. So this is probably one of the lengthier processes, but the other pockets are very, very straightforward. It's only the curved pocket. And it's really worth taking your time and doing it. We should be right now all the way to the top. And I don't like getting my iron-on interfacing stuck on my ironing board. So now I've got that in place where I want it to be. I'm turning the fabric over, and that's where I'm going to give it a really good press. So just be very careful with stay tape or any narrow interfacing. It can shrivel up really badly, and you don't want that to happen. So now we've got this piece, our coin pocket, 2 back pockets with the stay tape on it or narrow interfacing, and our other pocket. Now the next thing we're going to do is overlock or neaten the long edge, or sorry, the straight edge opposite the curve. So this is the coin pocket, and this side here is the part we're going to neaten. So we'll go over to the overlocker. Now the pattern doesn't say, or the instructions don't say, to neaten this bottom edge, because it actually gets zigzagged. So that curved edge gets zigzagged onto the other pocket, because this is the coin pocket. But even though I'm going to zigzag it on, I still would prefer it to be neatened. So I'm just going to run that through the overlocker too. So now both those edges are overlocked, and this one is going to be folded down. Now, as you can see, I thought I would just give this another press, and look what happened to my stay tape. So I need to pull that stay tape off and add a new piece. So that's what can happen to your stay tape when you hit it with a really hot iron. So I'm taking that off and I'm adding a new piece. Making sure this time I don't just hit it with a hot iron, and that I'm just ironing the wrong side. Once it's all enclosed, it'll be fine. So now, just trimming off that tiny piece because I don't want that stuck to my iron. You can put down paper, and sometimes I put down a piece of calico, or in fact I should be using a different cloth. I have several different pieces of cloth. This is a piece of organza, hence the colour. Real organza costs a lot of money. So I think I got this piece, and it's just a long pressing piece, and I think it was $20. So organza can be very, very expensive, but nothing happens to it from heat from an iron. That's why I have it. And I've overlocked this, but I have washed this organza cloth several times. An excellent idea. If you're pressing fine fabrics, you really need to have an organza cloth. Okay, so now we've got the stay tape back again. Now, I want you to turn it down twice. But what I'm going to do, to show you better this way, is, I can't see, I'm turning it down to where the stay tape is. And then I'm just turning the inside of it up to the folded edge. And pressing it down again. Pressing it on the right side. So that's going to be our coin pocket. And now I need to top stitch my upper edge. So I have two different sewing machines set up. I've got one that I'm doing top stitching on, and it's an old Empicel sewing machine. So it's a mechanical sewing machine, and I prefer that for top stitching. One, it can just sew over anything, and two, I find mechanical machines do beautiful stitching, but I need to have a piece and I need to test it first. So there's my pocket, all done. First pass, which is the closest to the folded edge, is with my needle on the right hand position and using the edge of the presser foot. And the second pass is with my needle still in the right hand position and the right hand edge of the foot up against the first pass. So let's see what's next. So next the instructions say to fold in 1/2 inch or 1.25 centimeters from this folded edge, from the straight edge, always going to press it down so we get a really good finish. Don't have to worry about that stay tape inside there anymore. So this is now going to be sewn to our pocket. So this is our front pocket, and remembering that the coin pocket is only going on one side, I have marked the side it's going on because it needs to be on the right hand pocket. When you're happy with that placement, you can pin it down. If you kept the pins on the ironing board. Now these are not the pins I use for fine fabric. These are the pins I use for much coarser type of fabric. So this is going to be our coin pocket placement. And I am going to stitch up here with the top stitching 2 rows, and then I'm going to zigzag along here to hold that pocket on, and so all you'll have is a little coin pocket that you can get your fingers in there. So now my top stitching's done. All I need to do is zigzag along this curved edge. Now I've finished my pocket bag, my coin pocket attachment. We're going to go on to putting the pocket facings onto the fronts. Here's our fronts. And it's going to be right sides together. This was our pattern piece, and this was cut out in fashion fabric. Now it's right sides together. So that's just going to get stitched at 1/2 inch or 1.25 centimeters. Which should be right where this interfacing is. So I'm just going to sew that on my regular machine. And so on my regular sewing machine, I'm actually using a size 16 denim needle. This isn't ultra heavy denim. And on my top stitching, I'm using a size 18 needle. Here are both of my pocket facings ready to stitch in. So I'll take them to machine and stitch them. Okay, so now we've got the pocket facings sewn in. On both sides, we're going to clip them and turn them over. Our instructions say, clip but not beyond the stitch line along the curvy part of the opening every 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters or so. But what it really means is clip the curve. I use my favorite scissors for clipping curves. So what you've got to remember when you're clipping curves, and one part of the fabric is, let's move that down so you can see, one part of the fabric is a heavier fabric than the other. So in this case, just can't help but ironing it. it would be very easier for this lighter weight fabric to get caught up underneath and accidentally clipped. Much more unlikely that that's going to happen to the denim. So I will do face up. Now, sometimes I do use the pinch method, which is like this and clipping. You could do either. I know, let's do one way and one the other way and see which one sits the best. So our curve starts to finish about there, so I don't need to do any after that. Okay, so there's the first one. And what we're going to do is press this all up. And this might be where you usually do an understitch. So you can understitch places like this where two different pieces of fabric meet and are going to be folded over. But as we're top stitching it, it's not going to roll out anyway. So I think getting a crisp edge is much more important. Let's have a look here and see what we've got. So I think the fact that this edge needs to be really crisp and make sure it's not rolling to the outside. And if you were going to put piping in a pocket, you would have sewn the piping in between these two layers. Before you did it. I think piping can look very effective on a denim skirt too. But if it's the first denim skirt you're making, piping's probably not the way to go. So what we want to do, so now I've got that pressed, we want to turn it to the outside and make sure that we cannot see any of the, it's just covered in fluff. It is quite fraying fabric. And make sure that we cannot see any of that under fabric. I'm going to press it on the outside edge. And even though it's all pressed beautifully, I am going to put a couple of pins in it. And I'm also going to put pins in the other part of the pocket facing, just so it doesn't get caught, because the last thing you want to do is have to pull out top stitching, because basically it's just wasting top stitching thread. Or you can use the double thread system, and I have used double thread systems before. And I think when I made my white ash jeans, I think I had some white top stitching thread and then I didn't have enough. And so some parts of it, might have been the waistband, I did with 2 reels of thread instead. Still gives you that same thicker thread effect when they're both going through the same needle. So that's our first one done. And that's just the rolled edge of the denim that you can see there. We can see that that is actually not showing on the outside. Let's clip the second one using the other method. And in fact, I'll just pin this pocket facing down so it doesn't get caught up. So the other method that you can use to clip is by pinching it together but you have to be ultra careful that you are not cutting into that thread. So it's going to look like a big zigzag, really, when you do it this way. I sometimes do it this way for collars and things like that. Depends what sort of a curve it is and how much of a risk I'm taking. Because I would say this way, it's much riskier if you're not used to clipping curves. So this is what that looks like a dinosaur's taken a bite out of it. Let's have a look and see which one actually sits better, or if there's any difference at all. Probably not going to be any difference at all. Now, if you don't have a hand to press it on, you can press it on the flat, or you can use a rolled up towel or a rolled up piece of thick fabric, but make sure the fabric doesn't have any polyester in it if you're ironing with it. Okay, now for the real test. No, you know, I think I can see it, the spiky bits. I might open that up and give it a couple more clips in there, making sure my finer fabric is facing me. Just not getting as much roll on that curve as I wanted. Let's see if that is any better. So if you were going to press it on the flat, let's do it like this, making sure that your facing pieces are facing out. So much fluff. So when it comes to pressing this part of your pocket bags, it is really worth it to take your time and make sure you can get it as perfect as possible, because that's the part that you're going to see. That, and you're top stitching it, especially if you're using another coloured thread. Well, that's better. I still think I would do it the first way I did it. But still, a nice curve on that. Once again, just going to pin this so that, of course, with your top stitching, you've got your normal polyester thread in the bottom, like on the bobbin, and so your work always has to be facing up when you top stitch. So the denim's always going to be facing me. So when I'm pinning this part, just so it doesn't get caught up and underneath, trying to make sure these pins are as far away from where I'll be stitching as possible, because it won't be possible to pull them out as I go like you normally may be able to do. So now I'm ready to do the top stitching. I'm going to go and do that top stitching. So now I've completed the top stitching on these pockets, both fronts. Need to make sure that is all flat and smooth. And now what we're going to do is sew the pocket bag to the pocket facing. So we've got this piece. Just pull it back here a bit so you can see. And we're going to be stitching these together. This is still all going to be free. And so we're going to stitch the pocket bag to the pocket facing, and then we're going to overlock it so that it's all neat. So if you don't have an overlocker, you can always zigzag it. So here I am ready to sew the pocket bag to the pocket facing. Now it's not caught up here. It's only all about the pocket. It's not about the front as yet. We're going to do that on both sides. Here's my other side with the coin pocket. And I think it can be helpful if we're just pressing this down so that everything is flat. Once I've pinned all this, we'll turn it over to the right side and see how it would be looking. And that's going to be the most important thing, because not everything matches up perfectly every time. It's not a neck facing. Now, neck facings pretty much do need to be perfect, because when you're looking at someone, you're looking at their face generally. And so that's probably more important. But with your pockets, the main thing is that the pocket facing is not sticking out, especially if it's a different fabric or a different color. So once we would have stitched that pocket bag together, then we will stitch down here and stitch up here, and that will just hold it all in place. But I'm taking those pins out because this actually needs to be free at the moment to stitch around. So on my sewing machine, my normal sewing machine, I'm going to stitch all the way around there, then I'm going to overlock it off. Now I'm just stitching the pocket bag to the pocket facing. Now I'm just overlocking the edge of the pocket bag pocket facing, and I will do this with the lighter weight fabric facing up so that I can make sure it's not getting caught and chopped off in it. So now there's that pocket bag done. Okay, so both the pocket bags are attached to each other. So now we're going to stitch across the top here and down the side here. And that just holds it securely and in place. That's really all we're doing, so that it's not flapping around everywhere. So to make sure it's all going to lie perfectly flat when it's on your body, because I don't think anybody wants any added bulk on them, we're going to stitch this down, but we need to make sure it's all lying beautifully flat and that that pocket is flat and that the fluff's off it. So we can see that one's perfectly flat. So I'm just quickly going to stitch on my regular machine these down. Now the pockets are all stitched in place. So now we've got to join the two fronts together. So it says join the fronts, matching up all the dots. First thing I'll be matching is the top and see if the dots, this is fraying really badly. Here's a dot, here's a dot. Whoa, it's in exactly the same spot. And of course, one side's going to have the fly and the other side's not. And remembering that we want a 1/2 inch or 1.25 centimetre seam allowance along here. So I actually can't see that when it goes past the fly extension. So let's put a couple of little marks in so that when I'm on this part, I can see where I should be stitching. Now I'm going to go to the machine and sew this seam. Okay, so the centre front seam is done. And there's just thread. I'll be glad to overlock this off. According to the instructions, it says press the seam allowance including the fly extension towards the right hand side as worn. This fabric does fray a lot, but I guess it's nothing compared to fur that I had all over my sewing room last winter. So we're just pressing this seam. We're not top stitching this down or anything yet. We're just pressing it so when you overlock it, it's going to sit nice and flat. There's our beautiful pockets. More thread everywhere. So we want to give this a good press so that when we go to overlock it, it's sitting really flat. Because you might think I could just overlock it and then press it. But if you press it first as well, it will help that overlocking to sit really, really flat. So when we look at the inside, well, you can see that it's making me crazy. course it's rolling. So now we're going to overlock this seam and up and around this fly. We don't need to worry about the fact that this piece in here is not going to be overlocked because that's going to be attached down, so that won't be exposed anyway. Okay, now we're up to top stitching the fly. And from my last stitch jeans making toolkit, I'm going to use the template from there. Now I have got a template in here, but as I wanted to leave everything in there, I just went and scanned that and recut it out, and I will be leaving that in the Quebec Skirt pattern that I've got so that I know which one it is that I like for it. And so I have hand tacked this fly down just so it doesn't move around when I'm top stitching. Now remember I talked about the chalk that disappears when you iron it? That's this chalk. You know, if you want to get a really great line for your top stitching, having an absolute line to follow is a really great idea. And I've made lots of pairs of jeans and pants, which you'll know if you saw my video from the other day. And I do this every single time. Every single time. So it's going to look like that. And of course this is going to be turned down. So it's going to look like that. And so now I've got a proper line to follow to do my top stitching. So now it's all about the top stitching. So we've got this all in place, overlocked it, I've tacked mine down. First thing we're going to do is one row of the top stitching. Then we're going to do the second row of that top stitching, and then we're going to top stitch down the actual center of the skirt. So I'm going to do that and then come back and show you what it looks like. Now I did do a bar tack, and I thought I should take you over to the sewing machine and show you how I do a bar tack in case you've not done those before. So let's go. This is my sewing machine that I do all my top stitching on. And to make it do zigzag, I actually have to have a cam in it. That's how old this sewing machine is. I've got my needle set to medium, my zigzag set to 3, and my length stitch set to 1. So let's have a look and see how to do it. So on some of my jeans I do bar tacks and some I don't. It's not really necessary on this because it doesn't have a real fly. So the idea of the bar tack is to protect the bottom part of your fly from coming apart. Just adds more strength. So you're really doing it in between your top stitching. And that's all it is. I've just gone zigzag back and forth, back and forth. It's all a bar tack is. Just be aware that do a practice for your bar tacks, because you don't want to ruin your fabric by doing a bar tack and then deciding, no, it's too messy, I don't like it. And it can look messy. So just be aware. I mean, you can hardly see it on this anyway because I've gone with the non-contrast top stitching. But before I did the bar tacks, I did take out some of my hand tacking. because you know what it's like when you run over hand tacking and then you can't get it out. So you don't want to bar tack over any hand tacking or anything that you would need to remove at a later time, because you're not going to be able to get it out. So let's go back over to the iron and have a look, because our front is finished. This is the skirt front finished. So I'll leave that part 2 as that today. So once this is joined to the side seams, really happy with that. Really happy with the top stitching and the fly. Now if you haven't downloaded this jeans tool making kit, it is well worth doing. A lot of different types of pockets in it. And as I said, that's the template. And I just went and scanned it so that I could keep a template in this pattern. It's well worth doing, and I've probably got one in my ginger jeans as well. Sometimes I compare them with the type of top stitching template that comes with the jeans, or sometimes they don't really come with a separate template. But if you really like the look of why is there a fly in here? Get out. If you really like the look of the fly on a pair of jeans, on a skirt, or whatever it is, you know, you can just put some in. It doesn't give you a separate fly template. You can just trace that off and make your own template. That's easy to do. Now this one has got all different styles of pockets, back pockets. Just going to have a look. Well, I think the lady's name's Johanna, and she actually does a lot of active wear sewing and cover stitch and all that. So I think I've got books of hers that are cover stitch. But this is a free tool making kit, so it's really, really good. Back pocket pieces with matching pressing templates. So in other words, especially if you were to transfer them onto card, means you can cut out your pocket and then you can put your pressing template inside it, and you can turn all those edges up and press it with the iron. Really, really great things like that. How to get very accurate and very crisp edges. So there's the back pocket pattern pieces with matching pressing templates in a small, medium and a large, and a tutorial sewing back pockets the professional way. Front jean patterns pieces size small and large, and key pocket pattern pieces. So the front jean pattern pieces, what she means by that is your front pockets. So your front pockets. And so she's got a tutorial on sewing front pockets a professional way. There's zipper fly shield pieces, small, medium and large, and zipper top stitch templates in 3 styles. So she has got a book called Sewing Jeans, a Complete Step-by-Step Guide. But I just find this little toolkit excellent. And it's got all instructions about how to do it. Now this is free. You can just download it off Johanna's website. So if you Googled jeans making toolkit, the last stitch, I'm sure you will be able to find it. But it's excellent. Really, really good. Yeah, so if you're ever thinking that you don't... Sometimes I get jeans and I think... Or jeans patterns. And I think, I don't like that fly much. It's a bit wide for me. So you've got to be thinking, if you're making a pair of jeans in a size 20 and a pair of jeans in a size 10, why have they got the same width fly? You need to make it width appropriate so that it's aesthetically pleasing. Now, I mean, you can go and look at jeans that you've got that are ready to wear in your wardrobe, and you might think, I actually really like those ones. You can always make your own template if you haven't got anything that matches that. So that's just a hint. That's the end of part 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please don't forget to join our denim challenge. So you can do a whip, sew autumn denim 2024 prior to the 31st of May, but our actual reveal for everybody is going to be on the 31st of May, and that's going to be hashtag sew autumn denim 2024. We've got a lot of people interested. We've got fabulous prizes, and I may be doing an update shortly with an Australian fabric company that's offering a discount. So on their denim, which would be really, really great, but I will do an update as soon as that information comes through. Everybody have a great sewing week. I will be coming back to you shortly with part 3, which is going to be making the back. So that's going to be the back pockets, the back split, the back seam. It should be a little bit faster than today, because today we did have to do the coin pocket, the front pockets, and the fly. So that's a bit more time consuming, but I'll see you all next time. Bye.